Sports Talk is up and rolling along with Vince D'Addario. I'm Sean Stiers. Yes, it is Monday, and Notre Dame's 3-2 after a third straight win, 28-20 over BYU Saturday night in the Shamrock Series in Las Vegas. Glad to have all of our a lot of our regulars along. If you're not a regular and maybe you're just jumping in on the YouTube for the first time, welcome to the show. Or even if you're here and we don't necessarily hear from you, it's always good to have you as well. And I'm already getting crap from Salty talking about there was a show scheduled to start 3 minutes ago. We're here.
We're here.
Vince and I had things we had to catch up on the back end. Things were actually working this time. It wasn't internet issues. It wasn't computer issues. We were just talking more than usual.
It was gossip. We were gossiping.
That's right.
Gossiping. It is what it is.
That's right. I'd love to tell you who we were gossiping about, but if you know either one of us, first, it has nothing to do with anyone from Irish Break.
That is correct. And
I don't want to subtweet anybody too hard there.
No. The difference is we're professionals, so we won't bring it up. But
that's right. That's exactly right. Great to have you again today. We've got a lot of Notre Dame football, of course, we're going to talk about. We got rapid fire coming up in a little bit as well. And I'll go ahead and I'll promote this right off the top. I published a podcast, audio only, with Niele Ivey. Niele and I, Notre Dame women's basketball coach. I did a one-on-one interview with her last week. It was an early morning, but she had to get up at like 5:30 in the morning. They had a morning practice, and so we did the interview on video after practice. And she's like, "Yeah, I really don't want you to use the video. If you could only use the audio." So it's audio only. We posted that podcast. So wherever you get your audio podcasts, you can find. I've got the one-on-one with Niele Ivey up there right now.
Nice.
Just posted that today.
She's always a great interview.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. We talked about Sherelle Allen, former Notre Dame women's basketball player who's now on the staff, joined the staff as an assistant this year. And, of course, we talked transfers and stuff. There's a lot of interesting stuff about transfers. Like if you're one of those, why so much transferring and those kind of things. There's a lot of good stuff that we talked about there. And, some of the transfer players that she brought in. So there's a lot of good stuff.
She was active. There's no doubt about that.
For sure. Had to be, but but again, we get to that whole thing. So you'll find that on our audio podcast channels, wherever you get your audio podcasts. And of course, give us a 5-star rating if you don't mind, and review and rate and all that kind of good stuff. And hit the like button right now if you don't mind. Vince, let's waste no more time.
Yes.
My question to you today, after watching Saturday night's 28-20 victory over BYU, is this Notre Dame team now the Notre Dame team we thought they would be when this season started?
No, not really, because I anticipated that Tyler Buchner was going to be the quarterback, and the offense would have looked a lot different, frankly, if Tyler Buchner was the quarterback. So this is not the offense that I anticipated. This is the offense I anticipated once Drew Pine took over. So it's almost like you can't erase the first two games. I mean, that's illogical. You can't do that. But they were attempting to be a different team offensively than they are now, right? Now, I will also say that this is the offensive line that I anticipated that Notre Dame would have, at the beginning of the season. That's for sure. But the offense does not look the way that I anticipated that it would look, because I thought it would be more, read option, more Tyler Buchner using his legs, RPOs, things like that. They're not running a lot of RPOs. They're not, obviously, Drew Pine is not an option to run the ball on design runs, right? He that's just not who he is, and that's not who they're asking him to be. So it looks a lot different than what I anticipated in the summertime. It absolutely does, but it looks like the team that it needs to be with the personnel that they have available. And that's a good thing.
Good points. I like the way you differentiated that. That's a great point, and I hadn't really thought of it that way. I guess I was thinking more overall just in terms of the quality of play.
Sure.
that kind of thing. And even then, we're still seeing, those deficiencies, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That kind of continues to make games closer than maybe they should be. Then closer than really the games are. Those are the things that are baffling to me. Specifically with such an experienced linebacker core, we're still looking for more there. Was such a veteran laden, talent laden defensive line, we're still looking for more there. I don't know. Is the jury still out for you on Al Washington? Where are you with him after a dozen years of Mike Elston, predominantly as the defensive line coach? Obviously, he ventured to linebackers for a couple of years.
Right.
And like if you look at that stretch, that was the couple of years that Notre Dame's defensive lines were kind of so-so. Then as soon as Mike Elston came back, the play really elevated once again. So I don't know, like between a new defensive coordinator, it's crazy that what we assumed was going to be the weakness of the defense, the secondary, has become the strength, and the other two units, while they have shown themselves at times, they're really not at the level I think that we thought they were going to be at this year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I think that the defensive line has shown flashes, right? I think they've shown flashes of being really, really good, but then they've also shown flashes of being subpar, and not the defensive front that Notre Dame needs them to be. I think the secondary has been a revelation overall, if we're talking about the complete 5 games. Now, there's definitely been, some issues here and there. I think some of that is play calling, with the safety blitzes. We talked about that in the post-game show. At this point, they just need to scratch that from the playbook, because either it's just not a good fit from an execution standpoint or whatever. If Ramon Henderson isn't 10 yards away from the ball when they call a safety blitz
the safety.
Then don't blitz the safety, okay? Because he is the only one that can get home on it. And for whatever reason, every time they blitz the safety, there's nobody in the middle of the field. So they just need to get rid of that. And you know what? Jaden Mickey, obviously, he didn't struggle the whole game, but like the big plays, the big play singular was on him. But he's a true freshman. He's going to make mistakes. And so you have to anticipate that if you're leaning on a true freshman as much as you are. Ben Morrison is obviously playing fantastic football for a true freshman for any year. Okay. Not just for a true freshman, for any year, but he's the exception, right? You can't be like, well, if he's playing great, then Jaden Mickey should be playing great as well. And every true freshman should be playing great. He's the exception to the rule, obviously. So you have to anticipate that Jaden Mickey is going to make mistakes. And Marcus Freeman talked about that in his press conference today. He's like, look, he knew what he was supposed to do. He jumped a different route and a guy was wide open. He knew what he was supposed to do. He didn't do it. Yeah. And that's a freshman mistake. So other than that, Tariq Bracy's been playing really well. Joseph has been playing well, not as well as I thought he would, if I'm being honest, but he's playing fairly well. But I'm not going to go through every guy. The secondary has been a revelation. I will say that.
I should mention Tariq Bracy, Marcus Freeman says, it sounded like I think grade 1 hamstring sprain is what he said. Low grade. He's hoping, that maybe he's back for Saturday. This is probably a game where you could do without Tariq Bracy, right?
Yeah, it's not. I think we saw what happens when you rush a guy back like they did with Jarrett Patterson. He was not 100% and it showed. And it took him a few games to kind of get his sea legs under him and get to be 100% healthy. There is no need to push Tariq Bracy back. He is literally your best DB right now.
Yeah.
Okay. He's your best defensive back. He's your best corner. He is playing lights out. You don't need him against Stanford. In fact, Stanford is a great game to get Jaden Mickey more reps so that those freshman mistakes are fewer and far between as you move on in the season, because obviously you're going to need Jaden Mickey. But this is a perfect opportunity to give him a start at nickel and let him play. Hamstrings are funny, man. And just like Stymie says.
No, I know. I've had hamstring pulls before, and they are like, you can be like, one, it's uncomfortable as all get out, just trying to walk around and do simple things. And then all of a sudden, it's like it feels like you've got a freaking grapefruit in the middle of the back of your leg.
Right.
That a grapefruit that hurts in the middle of the back of your leg.
Right.
And then, like, when you think that, okay, now it's healthy, and then as soon as you put a little burst on it, and I know, like, I don't look like a burst guy. Trust me, in my younger years, I could move around a little bit,
baby.
And it just, like, when you think it's right, if it's not 100% there, it's going to keep giving you problems. And just the more rest, the better. That's basically it, I think.
For a hamstring, that is absolutely accurate. And look, you do not need Tariq Bracy the next 2 weeks. You don't. Yeah. And there's no reason to push him at this point. You will need him for Clemson.
Yeah.
That's when you need him. Okay. And that's when you want your team to be at 100% full health. You've got time between that. That's November. I mean, I would like to have him back for Syracuse. Not going to lie, but you need him back for Clemson. So that's what I would be looking at personally.
There's some comments that I want to get to here. Salty has written a small book, so I want to get to some of his points. Right. This topic about whether or not Notre Dame is back. I agree. I think that, or not. The question was not whether they are back. It is, are they the team we thought they were going to be going into the season? And again, I think it's good that you differentiated, because we did think the offense was going to look completely different under Tyler Buchner, but we saw 2 games of Tyler Buchner, and even when Tyler Buchner was in there, that offense didn't look anything like, at least I thought it was going to look, with Tyler Buchner manning the helm. And so that's been the biggest thing to me, because, like, even this game, though it was successful and they ran for over 200 yards again, and they had nearly 500 yards of total offense again, that's like some of the things that Tommy Rees decided to do offensively really confused me. And again, it goes back to personnel packages and maybe overthinking things a little too much, especially when you get down inside, the 5-yard line, when they continue to try to ram it right up the gut. It's like, this was a team, when you brought in all that personnel, they did what I think, you would think that they would do. Instead of 3 down linemen, they brought in an extra lineman. And of course, especially in the red zone, they're packing 8 guys in the box, and you're outnumbered down there. And what happens? You get pushed backwards instead of getting it into the end zone. I felt like there were plenty of opportunities where they could have been exploiting the perimeter on BYU, and that's not what they decided to do. Again, they still ended up having statistically a good rushing game, but really, two big runs, I think, really padded that. And so outside of that, how really consistent was your running game? When they needed to run at the end, they were able to run it. But the way they went about things with the heavy packages and the power stuff, I was surprised by that, in terms of the game plan. But it's been a different game plan week to week.
It was very strange, some of the things that they did from a personnel standpoint. I mean, they go 13 personnel, so they had 3 tight ends on the field.
Right.
2nd and 9, backed up to your own end zone, going out. But then when they're on the goal line trying to score, they're in 11 personnel. Like, it's like somebody flipped around the play card and Tommy Rees got confused or something. I realize that didn't happen, but it's like that was 2 completely different things. It was almost like he was getting a little bit too cute for himself. You're going 13 personnel with your back to the goal line on 2nd and 9, and then we know you're not going to run the ball there. You're probably going to throw it, and they did. It was just weird. It was like he was almost getting too cute. Running a naked bootleg with Drew Pine is also not the most intelligent thing to do either, with your back to the goal line.
But I don't know about necessarily naked, but and I know what you're saying, with your back to the goal line. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. But then if you flip it to BYU's goal line stand after you've tried to ram it in there 3 plays, I would have loved to have seen some kind of bootleg with Drew Pine. He probably could have walked it. He could have either walked into the end zone, or one of the tight ends released and would have been wide open.
That play that they ran on 2nd and 9 out of 13 personnel would have been perfect for when they were down on the goal line. because it was all three guys went out on routes and they were all there and it was levels and all these, like, it would have been perfect. Why are you calling it at the other end? Like, it didn't make sense to me. That
it's
was
just
the biggest
frustrating,
problem.
Vince, because, after sitting here watching, spending 3+ hours, earlier in the day watching my alma mater, Kansas, which obviously is not synonymous with football, and the creativity they have in that offense, and then watching Notre Dame at night run that offense, it's like, why are you subjecting me to this torture? That's exactly what it was. It's torture compared to some of these other offenses we see sometimes.
I'm with you. And like I said, I gave Tommy a lot of credit for the last two games about it was a great game plan for Drew Pine, et cetera, et cetera. And at times on Saturday, I saw that, but there were more times where I didn't. And that was concerning, frankly.
Yes.
And again, players have bad games, coaches have bad games. I get it, but I'm hoping that he goes back to where he was the first couple of games of Drew Pine's tenure, then his third game. It was confusing at times. I will say that it was confusing at times.
Vince, you want to address this real quick from Josh? No, upon further review podcast.
So it was supposed to be Brian and Ryan. They were going to do the Upon Further Review podcast last night because my twin daughters had their 13th birthday. So we were partying it up, And so Ryan was going to step in for me. And I saw a tweet by Brian at one point that said they hadn't gotten the film yet because they get coaches' film and all that fun stuff. And that's what they like to go off of. And so they were pushing it back to 8:00. They must not have gotten the film because I don't think that they ever actually had the podcast. I went and looked today because I wanted to rewatch it. I wanted to watch that podcast, to be honest with you.
I wonder if it had to do with like the fact they were playing in an NFL stadium, like
it's
if
possible.
there were, maybe different rules or just, things done differently because of that.
So I'm not 100% sure why they decided to. My guess is they didn't get the film, and if you don't get the film, it's very difficult to have a podcast. But I was unaware that they were going to cancel. They obviously did cancel, and I understand. I get why, but I didn't realize that was going to be the case. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was. I wanted to watch it today. I had a little bit of time at work. I was going to kind of put it on in the background, and I did not get that opportunity. So
apparently, USMA 87 says Ryan said they got it this morning. So
okay, so there you go.
I don't know.
There you go. So maybe they'll have something. Maybe they'll have a special, at night or something, because I know it's one of my favorite podcasts of the week. And I know for Brian, he loves getting the board out and drawing, and I know he enjoys it. So
getting down and dirty.
He does. He enjoys it. So maybe they'll do a special one at night sometime. We'll have to wait and see. You guys tweet at him, everybody. Everybody tweet at him, and we'll get, he'll do it.
All right. So I want to get to Salty and this book that he wrote for us here in the chat. So he agreed with you. He said, regarding the show topic, and again, the show topic is this team who we thought they were going to be now. Regarding the show topic, number one, I didn't think we would have Drew Pine at quarterback, so we don't have the mobile quarterback aspect to the offense that I thought we would have. Completely agree with that. And that's honestly, that's like the thing that I was, like when I was just talking about looking at some of these other offenses, that was an element I was actually really looking forward to, seeing that Tyler Buchner element in this offense. We did not get to see much of it. And, again, maybe we found out why. The fact that all it took was one hit in game number 2 and Tyler Buchner is done for the season. Maybe they didn't want him running that much, but also negates a big part of why you recruited him, I think.
Yeah.
Signed him.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so point number 2 from Salty Virginia Peanuts. I thought the wide receivers would be more active in the offense. No shade. Maybe they reset with Pine and things seem to be opening up to game. What do you think about that, Vince?
I will agree with that because we have seen baby steps from the wide receivers as Drew Pine has gotten more comfortable and he's had more time. And Tobias was #free Tobias. He was on the field and he was actually on the field when they threw the ball. I believe he laid a pretty good block at one point. And so he's starting to get more active. I will also say that Drew Pine missed some open guys. That there were times when the wide receivers were open and he was kind of locked in on Michael Mayer. Now, is that a bad thing to be locked in on Michael Mayer? He's a pretty darn good receiver of the football. He's breaking records. He's doing all the things
15 times, had 11 catches. Yeah, just set the tight end program record. So
I get it. Michael Mayer's a dude, right? And he is one hell of a security blanket. Okay, so I get it, but for the maturation process of Drew Pine as the starting quarterback, he's going to need to be able to find the wide receivers a little bit more often, spread the wealth a little bit more often, because there will be defenses out there that can maybe not take Michael Mayer away, but not allow him to have 11 catches, so
Clemson, right?
That's absolutely. Absolutely. That's the next step.
Clemson's going to be able to dedicate more to him.
Right.
Better athletes at him than really anyone that he's seen since Ohio State.
Yes, I completely agree. So, again, every week they are allowing Drew Pine to do a little bit more with the pass game.
Yeah.
And that's very obvious and very clear.
I mean, you see it just in the pass attempts.
Yes, no question. And he's doing a good job with what he's been asked to do. And again, little by little, they're giving him a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So it's good, right? So the next step is for him to spread the ball around a little bit more. He's gotten plenty of time by the offensive line. That's for darn sure.
You know what? Since I think I want to spend a lot of time talking about Drew Pine, and just because of the way, we do this show, let's dedicate a lot of time. We'll do that on tomorrow's show. We'll get into Drew Pine a little bit, some other stuff, but I have some specific thoughts.
Okay.
And I don't want to get too sidetracked on that, because I want
to
get to Salty's points here as well that he's making, because I think he's got some pretty good points on, on some of this stuff that's pretty fitting. So I want to get to that. There's a couple other, comments that I just see right now. So I want to, we'll do that tomorrow. Because again, I want to spend a lot of time, and we don't do 3-hour shows like some guys on this show, right? So,
that's true. That is true.
Well, I want to be able to do that and spend a lot of time on it. Okay.
No, that's good. That'll be fun.
That said, point number 3 from Salty.
Love this.
He says, I thought I would be seeing dominant wide receiver performances from Merriweather, shade intentionally thrown at Tommy Rees's general. I mean, I think we all thought that.
We did.
And Marcus Freeman was not as specifically, or not even in general, about Tobias Merriweather today. But when you hear some of his comments about practice and proving yourself in practice and those kind of things, they're all points that obviously apply. You have to build the trust and confidence in your coaches in practice. And those are the kind of things that we've heard with Tobias. And he is obviously not there yet, So,
right. I mean, and he hasn't hit the threshold that Tommy Rees holds for guys that need to be on the field. Yeah. And whether we agree or disagree with it, that's the reality that we are living in. You, me, the fans, the posters, we don't get to decide who gets to play, unfortunately. And we don't have the luxury of seeing practice either. And so the bar is set very high to get on the field, and he hasn't met that. That's kind of where we're at, unfortunately.
Right. And again, I've got a soundbite where he was talking about Prince Cully, and I think I'll save that for tomorrow. I think we'll have some good content for tomorrow to get into some of these.
And I'll be on 3 days in a row. So, because the way Jesse and I have jockeyed our times, and I think after this week, we're going to be evened up again, which is probably a good thing.
That sounds right. Okay, Salty, point number 4, with Freeman, Golden, and Laurinaitis on the staff, I thought our linebackers would be tied with the O-line as our most dominant units. Linebackers can seem lost. And it's the most puzzling thing to me, because again, when you look at that, James Laurinaitis, great reputation as a linebacker, comes over here, the connection to Marcus Freeman at Ohio State. They both played the position. Obviously, Freeman was the linebackers coach and defensive coordinator last year, and Al Golden just coached linebackers in the NFL. Now
Yep.
he's the coordinator. He's the position coach. And I'm just dumbfounded at what we've seen from this group, especially considering your leading tackler from a year ago, even though he had maybe a better game against BYU when he got in the second half, but he has still been a head scratcher this season with his inconsistent play.
No, there's no doubt about it. It's been a head scratcher, and I watched most of the press conference from today, and they referenced the linebackers, and so Marcus Freeman was talking about Jack Kaiser and how Jack Kaiser was the defensive player of the game yesterday. He was named the defensive player of the game. I get it. He actually had a really good game. There's no doubt about that, right? And he has shown his versatility, being able to play rover and being able to play inside. And I think that was the genesis of the question. And Marcus Freeman said that Jack Kaiser is the most athletic linebacker that they have. And that one got me.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. I mean,
I think the most athletic linebacker they have is not playing this year because he's a freshman. And there are a couple of them who are probably more athletic than Kaiser, right?
Yes, that is the nice way to put it. Look, Jack Kaiser is a good player.
And I'm not saying he's not athletic.
Good player.
But
he's not the most athletic guy you have.
Yeah.
Right? He may be the most versatile guy because he knows both positions. There's a lot of great things you can say about Jack Kaiser. He's not the most athletic guy you have. That's not the terminology I would personally use, right? But he had a good game on Saturday. No doubt about that. If that is reality, if Marcus Freeman actually thinks that Jack Kaiser is the most athletic linebacker they have, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, again, Jack is a good linebacker. He is, and I think he fits actually inside better than he does outside. He's playing pretty well on the inside.
Like, I will say that he gives them better athleticism by moving in, at the inside position, and they can be more athletic, at rover when he's playing inside as opposed to playing rover.
Right. Yes, absolutely. So he's definitely not the most athletic, and if they think that, that's a problem. So again, Drunk Vigo, we're not saying that he's the most athletic. That's what Marcus Freeman said.
Yes,
I'm just reporting that that's what he said in his press conference. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. But he also said that there is very good competition going on to see who the first two linebackers are going to be to step on the field. I hope that's true because Prince Kollie has been playing pretty darn well in his limited role.
Yes. And again, like when you talk about athletes and what you've seen from Prince Kollie so far, there's a lot of promise there. And I think it's great that we're starting to see more of him. So
I just want to interject real quick. Upon further review will be tonight at 8:00.
Okay.
Officially. So tonight at 8:00.
All right. That's good.
Show topic number 5.
I was looking at Vigo. I just saw him say this is a clown show, and I'm like, well, I thought Vigo was here for us, and then he said, "I'm not calling you guys clowns."
That's what I thought too at first. I was like, Vigo, it's not us. We're not saying it, man.
I know. Are you really drunk over there or what? Literally. And then finally, Salty says, "I did not think I would see football game day in Lawrence, Kansas. Sean, my condolences. I'm sorry for your loss." Oh wait, not a show topic. That's okay. It was, again, I'm at least encouraged by the fact that I can turn on a TV and find Kansas football. And, even if it was on FS1, it was still, on my, my cable setup and was able to watch it. And it's just, what really kills me is like that game, a one touchdown game.
Yeah.
Against another really great scoring offense. It came down to two plays, really. And the biggest one was when Daniels, the quarterback, fumbles at the 1 yard line in the closing moments of the first half. And then TCU goes boom right down the field, scores in 6 plays. I mean, that's a 14-point swing there in a game that was decided by a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then they bring in Bean off the bench. He had transferred from North Texas. I mean, he's got a lot of experience. He played really well. I was impressed with how he played. Because, I mean, obviously he played last year, and it was up and down, but he played really well, got him to the end zone multiple times, hit some throws downfield. but ask him to throw a short pass, and it was kind of like Tyler Buchner last year. He threw just a really bad interception that TCU was, got a short field and was able to turn into a touchdown. So really those two plays in a one touchdown game, and it's like, oh, if you could have those back,
yeah,
it's completely different. So
yeah, no doubt.
But but again, it's like it's once every 15 or so years that there's anything
That's true
with Kansas football to care about. So
yeah.
I'm savoring that there's actually something to care about right now. So
I'm just happy I got to watch football this week because last weekend ESPN was taken off from the subscription service that I have because of they were fighting about rates and all these other things, and I'm trying to watch games that were on ESPN or the ESPN family of networks, and I couldn't watch any football. It was horrible.
Yeah,
horrible.
Yeah.
On the bye week of all things.
Yeah. Vigo said Tobias will already have several catches at other programs, bro. I don't disagree with that.
No disagreement here.
I think we were on the Countdown show. There was some Pro Football Focus information that I found about freshman receivers. There are like, I can't remember now off the top of my head. I had it written down the other day, but there's a good percentage. I think it's around maybe half of the top 20. Freshman receivers in this class have somewhere around 200 snaps, or something like that. And there's basically Tobias has the second fewest snaps of any of the top freshmen,
and only because in the country. The last one is injured. So he literally has the least amount of snaps of anybody that was in the top 20 freshman recruiting class as a wide receiver who is healthy. That's a problem. But hey,
Tyler said, "Here's $10 for Brian Kelly's press conference today because I think LSU showed up late to the Tennessee game or never showed up."
That's good.
I love it.
That's some serious shade, and I'm here for it.
All right,
well done, Tyler.
And then back on the subject of wide receivers, Brian says, "Vince, is Jaden Thomas trending upward? Notre Dame really needs that second wide receiver behind Styles to step up."
Michael
can
Mayer
do it all in the passing game. Blocking is still terrible.
Look, I'm not going to disagree with your last statement at all. It is not good. I will say that Jaden Thomas is trending upward. That was a great catch on a bad throw by Drew Pine. No doubt about that. It was severely underthrown. But I will also say they're starting to use him a little bit more correctly. They're starting to use him on some crossers and some things of that nature. And we talked about it in the post-game show. He is a perfect fit in the slot in this offense. Yeah. He is not your prototypical slot receiver like the 5'8", scat kind of guy. He is a matchup nightmare for a nickel or a safety or a linebacker because he's got good size. But the problem is he's not going to run away from anybody stretching the field. He can play the seam. He can do crossers. He can do all of those different things and be really, really effective. That's what they need him to do. Not trying to stretch the field vertically. That's just not who he is. He's not going to separate from guys.
And because of his physicality and his speed as well on those crossing patterns, I mean, that's that's goal. He's not going to get lost like a little slot, obviously, like an Edelman or those kind of guys. But just because of the physicality that he has, because, just in general, like if you look across football, you don't see as many crossing patterns as you used to.
That was
you see all these route concepts where automatically everything either goes outside or downfield, and there's so much space in the middle of the field that is not used. And a guy like him, you get a man-to-man defense with that kind of body, and that's just perfect for it. You know?
Absolutely. So I think if they start using him correctly and enhancing what he does, I think he can be really special in the slot. I think that could be a really good position, and he could be that number 2 guy behind Styles, because you're right, Brian. They need more than one option behind Michael Mayer, because right now Michael Mayer's number 1, and we always said that was going to be the case, no matter who the quarterback was going to be. He was always going to be the alpha, then Lorenzo Styles, and then question mark, right?
Yeah.
Well, Jaden Thomas, has an opportunity to be that guy if they use him correctly.
Concur. All right, we've got another super chat here from Milton Fan 15. Vince, I spit my water out laughing at your caveman voice during your BYU post game, where you discussed how the NBC booth couldn't figure out the goal line. All right, so give me the story.
We were talking about the fact that Jack Collinsworth was having trouble with the down and distance at times during the broadcast, and Brian said that, well, he's getting it fed in his ear as to what the down and distance is. And I said, okay, I get that to a degree. I said, but I've called a lot of games with you, and you can still see the down mark. You can see the first down marker and where the down marker is, and you can figure out, about what it should be. You might be a yard off, but you're not going to be 3 or 4 yards off, as Jack was on a couple of different occasions.
And it was
bad. And I said,
every play he wanted to immediately go, it's going to be 2nd and 5 as soon as the play was over.
Right.
Get off that. You don't have to do that.
Exactly.
All you're doing is making yourself look bad by not having the right information. Because me personally, I know not everyone's doing this, but I've got my notebook and I've got my computer with the live stats up there. And, I'm looking at the plays so that I can write down on my notebook so I have it, after each drive to reference how many yards each play gained. And as well, I write the down and distance so I know what down, obviously, the play, those kind of simple things so I can go back and find it. He was wrong pretty the live stats and him were wrong almost probably 90%,
wow.
They were not concurring about 90% of the night. And it's just really frustrating because I'm like, what do I write down? Because then NBC would also he would say one thing and then the TV, their down distance bug would show something else. It's just stop saying it. You don't have to say it after every play.
And again, use your eyeballs and watch where the box is what we call it, right? The down box, right? Watch where that is. The voice I use we're gonna put the down box over here, and you can't even tell it might be 2nd and 5. It was just it was disturbing to me because it's not difficult. It's not difficult. Don't count on the guys in your ear. Right? I mean, yes, to a degree, who makes the tackle? I get that stuff. But man, come on, dude. It was just bad. It was
either that or just, you don't, a lot of announcers they don't want the guy in their ear.
Yeah.
So that
I wouldn't like it, to be honest with you. It would mess with my head. I would not enjoy that. Now, granted, when I do games with you, I'm watching the game. I'm taking stats. I'm doing a lot of different things. And if I had somebody in my
spotters,
no. If I had somebody in my ear, that would be horrible. I would not enjoy that in any way. I will say, most stadiums that I go to, college-wise, let me stress that, are pretty good about the down and distance, and they get it up there pretty darn fast.
Yeah.
So when we're at Notre Dame Stadium, I could get the down and distance pretty easy. I go off of the stadium scoreboard more often than anything else because that's usually pretty accurate.
Right.
But high school scoreboards not so much.
But again, as a TV announcer, you don't need to say it because there's a graphic for it
right there
on TV. Everyone can see it. We especially don't need it immediately at the end of every play.
Right.
It's just
absolutely. And granted, you and I do radio, right? So we have to kind of explain what's happening and what's going on. So there's
you have
more
to
of that.
over-explain in radio because nobody can see it. Yeah,
exactly. But TV, you don't even need to say the down and distance. It's right there. I mean, it was just that part was not good. That was not good by Jack. And you texted me at one point, complaining about that, and Brian texted me at one point complaining about that, about the whole broadcast. And it was the first opportunity we all have had to watch a home broadcast because we're usually at the game, and we had to suffer through it just like all of you this time around.
I don't know, that little stands out to you, but you could make a drinking game out of watching Notre Dame football on NBC.
It was, yeah, it just wasn't good, man. I probably wouldn't be as critical if I hadn't been in their shoes at one point or another. You know what I mean? Like, I know
Right.
I am not a classically trained, radio person. You are, and you do a fantastic job, and you brought me along. But like I don't know. There's just you can do it, and you don't have to sound terrible.
Pat asks if we're ever happy. And one, we're sitting here laughing as we have this
I'm
conversation.
happy.
So I don't know how serious he is, but two, our job is not to be happy. Our job is to be truthful. That's wherever that takes us.
Yeah.
It's probably 50-50.
I'm a curmudgeon. I've been called worse.
That's right.
It's all good.
That's right. I'm sorry, but Jack Collinsworth is not good. He's not.
He's just not.
I'm sorry. Jason, and I realize some fans have a problem with Jason Garrett and the job he does because he's not rah-rah enough for Notre Dame. Like, if you look at his job specifically, and again, like, this is a Notre Dame crowd. You need a Notre Dame player sitting there. NBC has tried to, steer around that forever. Like, as a national broadcast network, NBC also gets, guff from the other. I remember right at, the first broadcast of the season, one of the national sports media people did a critique of the booth, and they were criticizing, Jack and Garrett basically for not having enough information, not telling enough of a Marshall story. And I realize, again, we've got people sitting here saying, well, it was a BYU broadcast. So I think that they're probably very cognizant of trying to tell that story, even though the bulk of your audience on a week-to-week basis is going to be a Notre Dame audience. They still consider that, like, they don't consider themselves, like a Notre Dame broadcast. Yeah. They consider themselves a national broadcast that happens to be Notre Dame,
which is so stupid because they promote it like it's Notre Dame football. That's the logo. The logo has a golden dome behind it. You know what I mean? You are a Notre Dame broadcast. You're paying Notre Dame. You're not paying the visitor. So why is this an issue?
Completely agree. I completely agree. But that's, it's been this way forever. And,
I know.
Again, like, I think, well, I don't even need to throw names out there. There are a lot of names that would make sense for that booth. Everybody,
Absolutely.
A lot of people want Brady Quinn. He would make sense. He's got a great job with Foxo. Like last week, he was doing an NFL game for Fox. And, he obviously does his Saturday stuff for Fox. He's got a great gig right now. And maybe, I don't know, I'll be interested to see, like where this next contract goes. And, now that NBC is a part of the Big Ten deal, and
that's right,
there are going to be some new voices and announcers and stuff like that. They're going to have to, just because the fact that they're going to be doing multiple games. So I tell you what, this is a topic that I was going to save for rapid fire tomorrow, and it's already starting to blow up right now. So I don't know if you want to pursue it more here, or do you want to just save it for tomorrow?
I can audible pretty easily, so you tell me what we're doing and I will follow your lead. Milton fan is cracking me up, though. I will say that. I got to throw this up here. Milton fan says, my wife, are you almost done with that? Me, no, I think Vince is going to do the voice. Wife, well, thanks.
So what is this voice? What?
The one that I did. We don't know what the apparently that is that's what gets Milton going, I guess. So
all right. All right. And We Are Not Marshall says, Sean and Vince are happy their IB Nation checks cash, so another week of employment. Well,
it's a job, and so, yeah.
Spot the lie.
It was great. Yeah, I'm happy.
That's right.
Always happy. I got direct deposit for the first time in 2 years working for Irish Breakdown, so I don't have to go to Brian's house and get a check. It's great. I'm happy.
Like, how about Joe Theismann?
Look, there's lots of options.
I'm sure Joe would love it. Joe's got, there's a lot of different options, but NBC, they've been doing this for 30 years now, and none of the analysts have ever been a Notre Dame guy.
The Golics are both available. There's a lot of options out there for color. And again, Jason Garrett isn't the guy holding this team back.
No.
I will say that. So
I think Garrett, there are some things like if you listen to like Garrett's strategic stuff, again, as a Dallas Cowboys fan who watched, watched that every week. Now, there were some things early on I liked about Jason Garrett because Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones.
sure.
And, there's a certain kind of person who was going to be the head coach. So you had to live, with something. I think that there were some things that Jason Garrett did well. He was, always organized. There were some good things about Jason Garrett, but like watching Jason Garrett be great between the 20s, and then as soon as you start getting inside the 30, they start powering down because it's like, okay, now we're in field goal range. We're not going to risk not being able to kick this field goal by taking a chance with a pass here. That's Jason Garrett's strategy right there. So to listen to Jason Garrett talk strategy, I don't need any of that. But like he's very well versed, obviously, in play design and and being able to explain to you some things that are going on. So from that aspect, I think he actually does a pretty good job.
Yeah, if you put him in the booth with a seasoned play-by-play guy, I think it'd be fine. To be honest with you, I think it would be fine. It's two rookies trying to feel it out. Two blind people trying to feel it out in a dark room. It's rough.
Yeah. I like Dan Orlovsky as well.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job the other day.
He works for ESPN, and I think he just renewed his contract recently.
Of course he did.
It's like, I don't know who or if they pursued anyone before they ended up with what they ended up with, but once Tirico made the move to Sunday Night Football and Breeze decided he wasn't coming back, Jack Collinsworth was what they had. And you've got a 27-year-old whose only previous football play-by-play experience was doing USFL games with Garrett over the summer.
Or maybe some like rocket football or something in the summer. He doesn't have the experience and it shows. And that's really all there is to it. And I don't know that he's gotten better as the weeks have gone on. That's the other problem.
Yeah. And, literally other guys cut their teeth in small markets and or even, FS1, wherever it happens to be. But Collinsworth is cutting his teeth on national TV doing Notre Dame.
Amazing. It's amazing. Good for him, but it's amazing that he even has that opportunity.
No, I know. It's just, we're going to have to live with it. Fortunately, you and I don't have to.
Yeah. Except for Shamrock Series games.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. We're done beating them up, Vince.
Yeah.
Are you ready for rapid fire?
Always ready for rapid fire. Let's do this.
All right. Let's do it. Fill in the blank. It's blank that after beating North Carolina 2 weeks ago and BYU this week, Notre Dame is still unranked and behind both of them in both the AP and coaches polls this week.
It's appropriate. I hate to say it, but it's appropriate because neither one of them lost to Marshall. And that is the anchor that is holding Notre Dame down. And they're obviously better than North Carolina. They're better than BYU. They beat them both on the field. The problem is North Carolina has won every one of their other games by a lot. They're scoring. Drake May is like a dark horse Heisman candidate for what he's doing. It's like they forget about the Notre Dame game. And the 28-20 score of the BYU game is not indicative of how that game went. And so that's what people are looking at. And they have a bigger win right now in Baylor than Notre Dame. You know what I mean? So I get it. I don't like it. I get it. But Notre Dame will have opportunities moving forward to leapfrog both of them if they take care of the business that they need to take care of.
What's crazy, and I realize BYU has a nice win over Baylor. And basically Notre Dame's best win right now is over BYU. BYU got 82 votes in the coaches poll. Notre Dame only got 13 right after they just played each other. And Notre Dame won on a neutral site.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is. And they both have 2 losses for that, so it's like, I guess 4-2 compared to 3-2, but it's just like, that's like typical coaches poll stuff. But then North Carolina, I saw by beating Miami, they jumped up 15 spots into that number 25 spot. And again, Notre Dame just beat them 2 weeks ago. Their only loss is to Notre Dame.
And they made them look
at
bad.
number 25.
I mean, they made North Carolina look bad. They made Drake May look bad. Drake May's look great. And I hope I'm saying his name right, but he has been.
Yeah, Drake May.
Yeah, okay. He's been really good in every other game, and Notre Dame made him look pedestrian, right? But they get no credit for that right now, because North Carolina's only loss is Notre Dame, and Notre Dame lost to Marshall. Like, the Marshall loss is just, man, it's the ball and chain for this team, and I get it. I understand it. You can't lose to Marshall at home. You can't.
No, and that's, and I said, because we talked about this last week. Would they be ranked if they won this game? Would they not? I thought it was going to take them a few weeks. I was saying 3. Now they're inching closer, so maybe a resounding win this week. You can't look bad against this Stanford team and think you're going to get ranked. But like, you look in the AP and the others receiving votes. Again, Carolina has 98 votes this week. Notre Dame has 58 votes. BYU has 61. So at least Notre Dame doesn't, like, the media typically is going to spend more time, looking at things like who beat who and that kind of stuff than the coaches, because, the coaches either have like an SID putting their poll together for them and the coach just signs off on it, or, if the coach actually is doing it, he's obviously not spending that much, looking at head-to-heads and all this different stuff. But I do think it's funny that Notre Dame literally has head-to-heads with teams that are right in front of them, head-to-head victories with teams right in front of them in the polls, and they're sitting behind them in both cases. But, again, like, it's encouraging that I think they win a couple more games. They're going to be in there. And then the big thing is, here in a few weeks, what comes out, the first college football playoff rankings, and that's the one that matters.
And Notre Dame they could very well sneak into that one. I mean, the playoff committee is the one that puts out the top 25, and they have always given Notre Dame a lot of respect. It's hard with the Baylor loss. I mean, the Marshall loss, sitting there staring him in the face. I get it. But Notre Dame has opportunities on their schedule to make waves. They've got Clemson. They got USC. They have opportunities. They have to take advantage of those opportunities. If they don't, then they are who we thought they were.
Yeah. And, like you were just saying, you can't lose to Marshall. I think that weighs them down as much as beating BYU props them up at this point.
I agree with that.
It's one thing, it's like the line at the end of Saving Private Ryan, earn this. It's like if Marshall had beaten Notre Dame and then earned their place by continuing to win, it would be a completely different story. The loss doesn't look as bad. But the fact that Marshall has not been good since beating Notre Dame really hurts Notre Dame.
Yes, it hurts them very badly because Marshall is not playing well, and they are getting beat. And it does not bode well for Notre Dame. It just makes it even worse.
Yeah, exactly. Fill in the blank. It's blank that, according to tweets from people at Saturday's Shamrock Series game, Allegiant Stadium ushers were trying to kick out Notre Dame students for doing push-ups after Irish touchdowns.
Didn't we have this discussion after the Fiesta Bowl?
Fiesta Bowl, yes, exactly. I thought the exact same thing as soon as I saw this.
Yeah, and so it must be an NFL thing? Like, sorry, it's the No Fun League. It's the NFL, so you can't have fun on the field. You can't have fun in the stands. Like, look, if they break their neck, that's on them, okay? And they can have a special Notre Dame rule, a caveat that if you do push-ups and you break your neck, that's on you. I realize that everybody's worried about litigation and everything else, but come on, man. That is a tradition at Notre Dame. It was technically a Notre Dame home game, and you can't do push-ups? Come on.
That's what I don't get, because it's a Notre Dame thing, obviously. I think Notre Dame students, Notre Dame fans know it. After a touchdown, the students do push-ups. And the fact that you're right, it's like it's supposed to be a Notre Dame home game on the road. And then so the students show up and they can't do push-ups. And like the fact that it happened at the Fiesta Bowl, okay, technically it's
a neutral field or whatever.
Game. They don't have to let you do
I get it.
Whatever. But it's odd. I wonder if NFL stadiums just have stricter rules for that, because I've never seen people. I've been to a few NFL games. I've never seen people doing push-ups at NFL games, and Tyler says only for students. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've still got people jumping in asking about upon further review. 8:00 tonight. They were late getting their game film, and so 8:00 tonight you'll get upon further review. One of the most popular shows on this here channel.
It's a great show. I that's one of my favorite ones to do. It's a lot of fun because we usually break down the film and we pull up slideshows, and Brian gets crazy with his marker, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I tried to listen to one, and it wasn't as enjoyable, I don't think, as if I was watching.
I can imagine that would be the case. Yes,
that's right.
Right,
Makes sense. Talking about play-by-play and stuff like that, video versus audio. So Marcus Freeman today called the Stanford game with Notre Dame a rivalry game. Do you buy or sell that?
I heard him say that. Let's not make things up. I mean, I realize there's a trophy involved, right? And, there's the argument that every team that plays Notre Dame makes it their rivalry game. Look, this is not a rivalry, okay?
You mean the Legends Trophy doesn't mean anything, Vince? Is that what
not to me. Now, I always want every trophy that's available, right? When you have these trophies, these traveling trophies, I want every one of them. I don't want any of the podiums to be empty, right? So from that aspect, it's important. But it's not a rivalry game. It's a game that you play every year, which needs to go away, by the way. But it's a game you play every year because you want to get into California. Right. And you have somewhat like-minded academic goals. So if they started playing Vanderbilt, would that be a rivalry game? It's not a rivalry. Stanford dominated Notre Dame for a little while, and ever since then, Notre Dame has dominated Stanford. It is not a rivalry game. Stop it. Stop it. Don't even pretend.
Completely agree. I completely agree. If it was a real rivalry game, they would actually sell the damn thing out when they go to Stanford.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't.
Not even close.
They don't. The only game they sell out there is the game.
Yes.
The Cal Stanford game. That is the only game that sells out at Stanford, I believe. Just based on what I've seen. When you look at their attendance, it is horrible. These, programs have alternated over the years in terms of, really good and, average. And, Stanford is very down right now. But, I think it's going to be hard for Notre Dame to get up for this game this week.
Yeah,
it is just not a rivalry game. It is not USC. The only, USC right now is the only true rivalry game Notre Dame has left on the schedule.
Correct.
Navy.
It's not a rivalry
they've
game.
Been playing it forever. Yeah, I mean, it's like, to me, it's like one of those games that was still more about the other team. Because, even when Michigan State and Purdue were on the schedule every year, just what you were saying, those games meant more to those schools than they did to Notre Dame. And it's I don't even know what this means to Stanford.
Absolutely.
If you go to USC, you hate Notre Dame. I know that. Yes. I don't know what people at Stanford hate, like gigabytes or I don't know.
I consider
enough bandwidth.
I consider Purdue and Michigan State to be bigger rivals to Notre Dame than Stanford. McCostrub says the 2012 edition was pretty good. Right, but one game does not a rivalry make.
Thank you.
Like that doesn't. Yes, that was a great game. And, it was the last second, it was in the rain, the last second win by Notre Dame. No doubt about it. But that does not make it a rivalry. That makes that a good game, but it's not a rivalry.
That's exactly Marcus. Right. I just don't buy it as a rivalry. Legends Trophy or not. Stanford is not a rivalry game. It is a game that happens to be on the schedule every year because of what you said. They want to get to California. Right. And they've used it to alternate with USC.
And there are other ways to get out to the West Coast. It is time to replace Stanford on the schedule. It's time.
Yeah. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Brian Kelly just donated $1 million to help renovate LSU's athletic training room and football operations. It is the largest donation by a sitting head coach in LSU history.
It tells me a couple of things. Number one, he's getting paid too much. So he has $1 million to spend. Number 2, it means that I thought he went to LSU because they had better facilities and everything was better. And now he has to put his own money out to make it better?
I know.
Well, where was the $1 million when he was here to go get a year-long chef or whatever he was missing at Notre Dame?
I mean, this is like, as a teacher, you should identify with this. Like, you've got to buy your own supplies, right? Or like, as a baseball coach, I don't know how much of my own money I invested as a high school baseball coach into buying things for the team. It's like, you are at LSU now, and supposedly all these advantages were coming to you when you went to LSU, and now you're giving the money?
Joke. Hilarious.
Where's the upgrade to the Goog that you were bitching about for years that never came?
Right. You didn't have $1 million to throw into the renovation to the Goog? Like, they could have gotten a lot further with $1 million.
Bought that new house instead, I guess. You know, that it was more important to buy the house when he was at Notre Dame, but now we're doing athletic training room. $1 million at
hilarious. LSU. Hilarious. Well, and you know, when did that go public? Was it after the loss or was it before the loss? The most recent
might have been after that.
Is he searching for some goodwill at this point, or
we got our butts kicked by Tennessee? Here's $1 million.
Here's $1 million.
Go build a kitchen for the private chef.
Hilarious.
No kidding. I didn't think about that.
Oh man. I mean, he's struggling right now, and I'm here for it. So, and it doesn't get any easier. His schedule does not get any easier, fellas. And
I think a lot of people are here for it. Honestly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you hear all this stuff about Deion Sanders this weekend?
I actually did hear about it. So this is a fun topic.
This is crazy. So Deion Sanders, of course, he's the Jackson State head coach. He beats Alabama State Saturday. So Alabama State head coach Eddie Robinson, not related to the legendary Eddie Robinson, by the way. I was
wondering about that.
In researching this topic. I assumed right away it was, because it's actually Eddie Robinson Jr., but he's not related.
Oh, okay.
To that guy. Completely different. Eddie Robinson, he is the son of, apparently. So Deion shakes Eddie Robinson's hand. Or Eddie Robinson shakes Deion's hand, whichever way you want to look at it. But Deion tries to go in for the bro hug after the handshake, and Eddie Robinson's having none of it. Eddie, like, not only he didn't even give Deion the Heisman. He just is like throwing his arm off and he's walking away when Deion tries to go in for the hug. So Robinson said at his press conference that Sanders was disrespectful in the media during the week in the lead up to the Alabama State game. It was Alabama State's homecoming, and Deion's like, this is a money game, because Jackson State draws eyeballs. They're going to pack people in the stadium and all this different kind of stuff. So Eddie was mad because of Deion being disrespectful. So where do you stand on all this, from post-game coaches etiquette to the disrespect and everything else?
Honestly, if there's a side to take in this, I'm going to side with Eddie Robinson, to be honest with you. I am all for a handshake when the game is over. I'm all for it. I don't have to hug you. Like, I can tell you right now, there's a coach, that I dislike greatly, who is a head baseball coach in the area.
Okay.
May or may not have taken over for you. I'll shake his hand every time, but I will not bro hug him. You know what I mean? I will Heisman that every time, man, because look, we're not friends. Let's not pretend that we are. I will shake your hand. Hey, good game, whatever. But I'm okay with it. If he's holding a grudge because of some of the things that Deion said, which I get, he's probably the underdog and, all of this, and they got beat on homecoming. Hey, man, I'll shake your hand, but I'm not hugging, and I'll let you know why too.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, and Eddie Robinson doesn't have to give a reason why he doesn't want to bro hug Deion.
That's true too.
Absolutely. It's, like you said, the etiquette is the nice and cordial thing. Our teams line up from each other. We line up across the field from each other. We go at it for 3 hours. At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, We put whatever disagreements we might have, even if we're going to do the drive-by handshake. We do the drive-by handshake. We do that. We make the little public gesture. Anything after that is overkill and optional. Like if you're not my guy, I'm not going in for the hug with you.
And there's plenty of guys that I respect and that I enjoy and that I'm friends with. I'll bro hug you guys all the day, all time, all day long. But that is not a requirement in any way, shape, or form. Handshake it. Good game. I'm going to right field to talk to my kids. And now, we're done here.
As to the whole, was Deion disrespectful? One, the Deion Sanders experience, I mean, and this goes all the way back, 30 years ago to his playing days at Florida State. Yeah. Deion Sanders is an experience unto himself. Deion likes Deion, and there's always going to be a neon Deion primetime, whatever you want to call it. There's going to be a show. There's going to be a sideshow that comes along with Deion. But Jackson State likes the attention. Deion likes the attention. Deion's kid is really good. They're winning a lot of football games since he's been there. But was he disrespectful? I read it's like, it's a money game and, we're going to put butts in the seats. I mean, it is what it is.
I don't have a problem with that, to be honest with you. I don't have a problem with what Deion said. But if Eddie took offense to it, then okay, whatever. Don't give him a bro hug. But I don't have a problem with Deion. He is the ringmaster of the circus. And what happens when the circus comes to town.
Nobody's talking about SWAC football if Deion Sanders isn't the head coach and winning the way he's winning.
Right. You got it. You got it.
All right. I believe this is our last question for tonight.
All right. If you must, you must.
Baltimore Ravens kicker.
Oh, yes. This is
on the subject of shows. Were you watching the game last night when this happened by any chance? Or did you
I was watching the game when this happened. Okay. I also saw it on the replay, and they had a whole story on him this morning on the Today Show. It was happened before the kick. Wow. But they had a whole thing on him this morning. So So
Ravens kicker Justin Tucker did a little pose for the crowd last night after he booted a 58-yard field goal. I mean, no small feat. 58 yards.
Yes.
58 yards. He drills it. And he holds his hands up in the air, and I'm doing it on the video as if to say, behold my greatness, basically, is what it was. So my question is, do you like that kind of borderline cockiness in your kickers?
Absolutely. Of all the positions on my field, I want my kicker to be cocky as long as he can back it up. Because kicker, you're either the GOAT or the hero. There's really not a whole lot of in between when you're the kicker. And if you are a kicker as good as he is, okay, he averages 136 points a year. Okay. That's more than any other player in the history of the NFL.
It's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points, man. And he's also the only $20 million kicker out there.
He's also the only opera singer.
Yes, that is also true.
$20 million kicker out there. That's what I would actually like to see. They need a microphone on him. And when he boots that kick and he's like, oh, solo me, so he needs to belt something out for the crowd. He, not just wave the arms in the air. I mean, it's not like this is the Cardinals kicker who's shanking the kick off to the right in a clutch moment. Not a very did you see that by any chance? I flipped over. I've got the ticket, so I flipped over after the Cowboys game was over, and right at that point, it's 20-17. He's kicking to tie it up after Kyler Murray screws up the whole situation to begin with, but he's kicking to tie it up. And Fox starts showing his pregame kicks. He's like, everything off to the right, off to the right, off to the right. Guess what happens? Wide right. Exact same thing, wide right, on these short kicks. But it's not like Justin Tucker is that, he's shanking, half of his stuff. And then on the one that he happens to kick, now he's out there exhorting the crowd and, that whole thing. It's he can back it up.
Goat, man.
He can back it up. Go for it.
He's the GOAT. He doesn't have as many Super Bowls as Adam Vinatieri, but he's a better kicker.
Yes.
And when you're that good, then you know what? It is what it is. I have no problem with that. You just kicked a 58-yard field goal to win the game. Congratulations, man. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, he's earning every penny of that $20 million.
Yep. Upon further review, 8 o'clock tonight. Brian asked me, we've mentioned that a few times. Upon further review, will be at 8 o'clock tonight. So we still have that coming up. I didn't know how to make this a rapid fire question because I wasn't sure if you're going to be able to see it. Did you see what happened with the Tom Brady sack against the Falcons yesterday?
I did not, but I did see people making fun of it. So I can only imagine what it looked like.
So this dude sacks Tom Brady. Tom Brady's got the ball in his hand. Okay. He is sacked. This guy basically, like, how would I even describe the tackle? He didn't like try to break Tom Brady in half. He wrapped him up and he rolled him to the ground.
Okay.
And then he got up and walked away. They threw a flag for basically one of the most textbook sacks of a quarterback. Like, if you were going to show your players how to properly sack a quarterback without getting flagged, that is probably it. They called roughing the passer on this guy.
I'm watching it right now. Are they saying that he like slung him around and like slammed him into the ground? Like that was,
I don't know.
That was a little bit more than a hug. Like that was, I'm sorry. There is no way that Tom Brady even felt that. That's bad.
Well, this initials guy, I don't know what exactly that is. MKO. Like he says it's a subjective call, but it's not against the statute. Every call is subjective. You know, that's like what else? Now, some are more textbook than the other. Like, should it be, you know, like, should there have been 2 flags thrown at the end of the Kansas TCU game for defensive holding? Yes, there should have, but it's subjective. So the flags were thrown.
I get those. I get those. But that was you. I'm sorry. I don't. And I also realize that different players get different kinds of calls. I realize it's Tom Brady. I realize he's like 107 years old. But that sack was not going to hurt Tom Brady in any way, shape, or form.
No.
So you don't call that. That's terrible.
Right. I mean, if we're throwing flags because a guy's a geriatric out there and we're worried he's going to get hurt, you know, because he's taken to the ground,
then he shouldn't be playing.
Yeah.
And this is a contact sport. Okay.
Exactly.
Sorry.
We were talking about Justin Tucker, and Brian J. Irish says something we don't talk about much. Notre Dame punter is something special. And I saw somebody say
very good.
John Sott needs to be doing some Conor McGregor. There it is. It's still up there. John Sott needs to be doing the Conor McGregor this Saturday. Now that would be funny. Like if John Sott punts from his own 10 and rolls one inside the other 10-yard line.
Yeah,
and he,
that
goes off with with the $1 billion strut. That would be funny.
Look, he was almost he had one punt, right? He had one punt on Saturday, and it was too good. He literally outkicked his coverage.
Right.
I mean, that was a bomb, right? I mean, you want to talk about a transfer pickup? Like that is a huge waiver wire pickup for Notre Dame was John Sott, and he is playing very, very well, very, very well.
Yep, he is. Like, I think, Blake Grupe's field goal kicking could be a little bit better, but otherwise, even though we haven't seen,
he's only missed one.
Well, technically, he missed another short one, but again,
it got called back.
An errant flag bailed him out. And,
did. So he's only missed one.
Right.
Just saying. I'm defending the kicker.
No, you're right. My point was going to be special teams have been very solid. I've seen some people kind of taking shots at special teams just because there hasn't been that big spectacular play yet. They have been very solid.
They have been.
And I think that over time, we'll start to see some of that stuff.
Yes.
I think it's kind of one of those.
Brandon Joseph's going to break one at some point. I mean, he's been real close at times. I mean, I'd love to see another Chris Tyree touchdown return, no doubt about it. So, yes, I think the special teams have been great.
Yeah.
Unlike before under the last coordinator, who's really having a great year.
Well, I was going to say that guy down there in Baton Rouge
having a great year,
feeling some heat for the special teams down there.
Great year.
special teams play lost them the game against Florida State, if you remember that.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, that is going to do it for tonight. Appreciate you joining us. And again, one more time, upon further review, 8 o'clock tonight here on the old Irish Breakdown.
42 minutes, people. Probably more like 47. But right. Tune in, 8 o'clock, upon further review. Brian and Ryan are going to break it down with the film and have a lot of fun with that.
Yep, absolutely. Again, don't forget, if you would, hit the like button, rate, review, subscribe, all that great stuff. Appreciate you stopping in today. We've got a lot of stuff, of course, all week, every week that we're going to talk about. Mailbag on Wednesday. Got a Stanford beat writer coming up later in the week. People like the BYU beat writer last week, so we'll have the Stanford guy coming up later this week. And tomorrow, we're going to jump into some deeper Drew Pine conversation. So we've got that coming up on tomorrow's show as well.
Love it.
So Can't wait. Talk to you then. Again, upon further review, 8 o'clock tonight. Peace out. We will talk to you tomorrow. IB Nation Sports Talk.
Thanks for coming.